Okay, we are just on the afternoon break in the questioning of Helen Steel at the undercover policing inquiry. We've been listening to the way in which the undercover police officer John Dines deceived Helen into a long-term intimate romantic relationship. There's been a lot of stuff about the holiday they had in Barra together, which is when she said she truly fell in love with him. The very famous photograph of herself looking very young with him, which people may have seen from the Deep Perception book and elsewhere, was shown and the context around it explained. I'm joined by Chloe Wilson and off screen, Lisa from Police Spies Out of Lives. Chloe, what have you made of what Helen's had to say?
So I haven't followed this, and I haven't read that book. I'd always known that what happened to Helen, being spied on by the police, was incredibly unjust because of who she is. That she's a incredibly reasonable, intelligent person, a community worker who would never knowingly hurt a living thing. So I had always known it was incredibly unjust and wrong, but I hadn't appreciated how young she was. Yeah. And how malicious the attack on her was. Yeah. That's very shocking.
Very shocking indeed. I mean, so she was 24 when the relationship started. He was 34. He was pretending.
But his assault of her started a lot sooner than that.
Yes, much sooner.
She was 22.
She was 22. Yeah. He was 10 years older.
And the girls are 21.
Right.
And if somebody did that too.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth noting as well that if those of you who haven't seen the photographs, she doesn't look like she's in her 20s. She looks a lot younger, and he looks, as the lawyer Daisy Monaghan, who I think is doing a very good job, referred to. He looked incredibly weathered in comparison to her. It is incredibly shocking, and it is deeply, like we've seen so many of the letters that just show the level to which he was love bombing her, incredibly manipulative. We saw the poetry that he wrote. She talks about the particular photo when they're on the island of Barra, as she always thought of it as one of the happiest days of her life. About how that this was when she felt that she was truly in love with someone who truly loved her. It's heartbreaking. Truly heartbreaking. Yeah.
Just about that photograph, when it came up, of course, and the lawyer referred to it as the famous photograph, because of course we've seen it a lot. It's been in The Guardian, it's been published in a book, it's been on the TV, but it's really striking seeing all these letters and that photo in particular, just how something that then is in the public domain and we feel like it's it's a famous photograph, that is actually somebody's incredibly personal and treasured memory. I was sort of thinking about how I will feel at a similar moment, if there are such personal letters being shown, and to hear the way she described how she had thought of that photograph, before she knew and before it then became this sort of famous symbol of a campaign, that it is a deeply, deeply personal and important moment. The contrast between how Helen has been portrayed in the files up until this point by both Dines and Lambert, and then how she describes herself at the time, and how, which is, you can see in that photograph, she describes somebody who's incredibly young, quite vulnerable, not very confident, and then how they describe her in the files. It's just, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the contrast couldn't be stronger. I mean, for those who haven't been following that closely, the descriptions of Helen we've seen in the reports are of this, somebody who is a sort of angry, kind of malicious, just in the worst possible terms. And the vulnerability she's showing today is incredibly powerful. And we saw that contrast between the way in which he was writing letters to her, and at the same time we saw some of the reports that he was writing, both about her and other things, and then it's just so dismissive and I mean, the cruelty.
Well, they're making her out to be a bit of a thicko criminal. In fact, it's him. He's the thicko criminal.
Yeah.
And it's, we've used the phrase love bombing, which I think is useful because we've got a phrase now for something maybe that we wouldn't have been so alert to then, but it's also grooming, that's the other thing that it is. It's somebody, deliberately engineering a situation, engineering feelings, engineering closeness for their own gain. and fetishizing her sort of vulnerability and youth at the same time. It's, again, you know, as has been described before, the police as a grooming gang.
Yeah, I mean, we saw examples of that around the sort of fetishization he had about her youth. We saw the wrapping to the gift that he gave her on her 26th birthday, where he'd written "Happy 16th" and then crossed out with 26th. He said that, you know, she said that he was always going on about how young she looked and how lucky that made him. And he would always bring this up when he initiated sex. It seemed like he was. She said it felt like he enjoyed sexually exploiting her. There is something deeply, deeply perverted and dark and horrible in a way in which, I mean, we've talked about it so many times about the undercover officers when they're given evidence. We go, oh, this is the worst one yet. This is the worst one. And I mean, right now it feels like John Dines is the worst one. It's so horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, I just as well, the other thing that talking about their holiday on Barra sort of outlines is, again, another tactic. So you're saying, like, he seems like the worst one, but he's also they all use the same tactics. Yeah. This mirroring thing, which we're now seeing, where, you know, this person, and Helen said it, you know, we like doing all the same things. You know, that's the really clear. It's like he likes the same, going on the same type of holidays, doing the same type of activities, photography, nature, walks. You know, that's what they did. It's like, okay, well, we'll share lots of time together that is not about the politics, that is about other interests, and it's easy to see how affecting it is when you're having a relationship with somebody who just seems so ideal, and they seem so ideal, and it seems so idyllic because it's not fucking real. You know, they've got all the same interests as you. You don't argue because they are trying their hardest to be your ideal person. They're not being their real selves. So you're not having, you know, arguments tend to be about things that they can't control, like about their deployment, you know, whether they have to go away or whatever. But it's never about the minutiae of everyday life because they're on their best behavior. And what a weird situation
and
that is.
And this is on top of going to such lengths to elicit her compassion by killing both of his parents and having an endless string of bad luck. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. That whole manipulative way of getting somebody to constantly feel sorry for you and put you first, put your feelings first, you know, feel like they have to look after you. Oh, yeah. I mean,
and coming and lying in her bed.
Yeah. And just the amount of emotional support they were getting from these relationships, you know, they're getting, you know, he's getting Helen to feel sorry for him and look after him when actually he's probably just quite stressed because of the position that he's putting himself in. Nothing to do with, you know, like I say, he's killing off his parents.
On this young person.
Yeah, I mean, just to explain the background of what Chloe was just on about, he claimed that he had been, you know, he'd been in police custody, that he was being released. So she went and met him from the police station. As she's approaching the police station, he comes out with his belongings in an evidence bag with a tag. We saw the tag. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much of an archivist Helen Steel is. We have got everything. She has kept, like, people talk about keeping the receipts. I mean, like, Helen has kept, like, so much more than the receipts, everything. And you know, she thinks he's just come out of police custody, that he's been in custody for some time. Turns out that's not the case. She invites him back to her place, and there's lots of other people there and children, so it's quite loud and stressful for him. So she invites him to go into her room. They sit and chat. He seems to be so exhausted. He appears to fall asleep on her bed. She would feel bad to wake him up, given the ordeal he's gone through. So she lies in bed next to him to go to sleep. In the night, they end up kissing. This ends up being the start of the relationship. Within a week, it's a sexual relationship. She talks about, you know, how basically it always felt like she was, you know, she felt sorry for him. He was having a hard time, as well as the false death of both his parents. Also, like, his car got stolen from outside her home. When they went to go and retrieve it, it turned out all four wheels were missing. They went and bought new wheels. When they got back,
she lends him money to go to a funeral.
That
isn't real.
That isn't real. The car's been burnt out, and she just said, I felt so sorry for him.
Do you think the car thing is just what STS cops did when they fancied a new car? They just engineered getting it burnt out so they could claim a new car.
I think so. I mean, I really get the impression that, like, for whatever, because he had so many different vehicles in what is a very small period of time, and it really seems like the officers had a bit of a competition about who could get the best stuff.
Because wasn't Boylan whinging about the standard of his vehicle a lot?
Yes, he was. Yeah. And I mean, we've heard from like numerous officers, but there's, I mean, Peter Francis burnt out his vehicle. It seems to be that, you know, they had this this budget which they were just, you know, desperate to burn through. That's what it seemed to be. It has been quite harrowing listening to some of it. Just, you know, hearing how it sounds really, but hearing how happy she was with him. And how like content and loved, and you know, and how much joy.
Eventually, after he laid it on so thick and gone to such lengths to draw her in.
Oh yeah. But then for that to be so tainted, and she just said she still can't quite get her head around looking at that photo, a photo which was quite treasured, and like her thinking he knew who he was, you know, and that smile that he's got just means so many different things now to what it meant. She used to think it meant.
Exactly. So there's not just the power imbalance of him being older, the power imbalance of him, you know, him sort of engineering her feelings. There's all the other layers now that he's married, he's a cop, he knows everything that's going on, and she doesn't. And that, you know, that it's all, you can see it all in that photo. Yeah,
there is a whole next level thing about the marriage. So he was sending letters to his wife and his mother-in-law. He was sending them draft letters for them to copy out in their handwriting and send back to him, so he could pretend that his ex and some elderly relative of his was sending him letters that would like kind of fill in aspects of the story, which, I mean, I've never heard of that before. I mean, that just seems just so, I mean, I've got no words. It's only a short break and we should be heading back in soon. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just wanted to say one thing about the blatant sexism. We were talking a little bit about how Helen's portrayed in the files.
Yes.
And just that description at the end, the belittling of Helen's role as a campaigner and the blatant sexism involved in that any type of campaigner who was mostly caring and didn't spout off as much pseudo-intellectual bollocks in meetings as maybe some of her, you know, fellow activists, that is belittled, the way that was belittled in the reports, that made me so angry just seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, alongside that, there was the, you know, when he started that sexual relationship with Ellen, he puts in the reports that it appears now that her relationship with Andrew Clark is done and dusted, and that formidable political duo has been kept apart, never to be reconciled. And like this sort of like this joy of like, yes, he's split them apart and he's made sure that they're not going to be a couple again. Yeah, it's just so deeply gross.
Also contra though, he's calling them a formidable political duo, and then he does her down.
Yeah,
and so she's just like a bit mumsy, really.
Yeah. All she does is look after people. I mean, as if, you know,
as if that's important. Oh, but there was some line about, but that does seem to have contributed to the success of those campaigns. It's like, no shit.
Right, we better go back in. I'll do another video at the end of the day, hopefully with a few other people. Please like, share, subscribe, all that.